All right, the Reds, it is the Spion Kop. We're back. I'm Pete Bolster. I've got Christos Nicolau with me and Christopher Griffiths-Gripton. We're going to speak about the Reds. We're going to speak about Arne Slot and what's next for the manager, because it's quite simply not being good enough. It's been boring to watch. It's been slow. It's been predictable. I've wanted to pull my eyes out watching Liverpool. I've not even wanted to watch Liverpool. That's the most damning fact about it. The thing is, lads, I was watching the game on Saturday and I was speaking to Arche, who was watching it with, and I think the most damning fact about it was there was a moment where Cody Gakpo nearly equalised and we didn't even flinch, and that's what I feel like over the last few weeks and months of the season, that I've become very numb to it. Not that I want Liverpool to lose, just that like when I'm watching it, there seems to be a little effect. I'm really celebrating goals. I think I celebrated the goal when we beat Nottingham Forest away about 3 times in stoppage time, actually. But you get the point. It's a miserable time being a Liverpool fan, and that's just the eye test. I think the eye test is damning enough. But here's some stats for you. So the stats are that Liverpool have now lost 10 games out of the 31 games this season in the Premier League. That is 1 in 3 games that we play. We are the Premier League champions. So what a disgusting, anemic title defence that is. It's quite embarrassing, really. It's also our most defeats since the 2015-2016 season, which is obviously the season when we changed Brendan Rodgers to Jurgen Klopp, and there was a bit of a mess that season. We can all agree on that. Quite staggeringly, Liverpool have now been outran 27 times out of the 31 games they've played in this season in the Premier League. 5 kilometres, Brighton outran us on Saturday. Spurs, who were embarrassed at home to Nottingham Forest yesterday, also outran us on our own pitch last week. Liverpool, in the last 38 games before Saturday, have won 17, drawn 9 and lost 12. That gets you 60 points in a season and gets you about 6th in the league. That is like quite damning and staggering and just simply not good enough. When you look at the picture now and you think about the lack of press in this Liverpool side, that's also quite apparent. You can see that with your eyes. You can certainly see it. But I looked at the stats. I seen them on Monday Night Football last week. Liverpool have been in the top 2 for many years on pressing the opposition. We've been the pressing monsters, really, under Jurgen Klopp. He brought a new level at Liverpool Football Club and right across Europe. In the Premier League last season, the pressing stats went down to the 4th best team in the league, but we won the league, so we accepted it, and maybe that was a bit of evolution of how this team's going to play. Liverpool now find themselves 8th best. And when I say 8th best, what I'm trying to say there, Chris, is that actually the 8th best means that you're never anywhere near the best at all. And quite actually, you're pretty bad at it. And this is where one of the biggest problem lies, I would say, in the protection of the midfield. The fact that the opposition just seemed to go right through the team just to be able to get an attempt on goal or score a goal. It seems to be why we conceded so many late goals. When you put all of this into a conversation, into a little bit of what I'm trying to say to you is, there seems to be no hiding place now, and all the mitigating circumstances, and I must stress that there really is mitigating circumstances. What happened in the summer was certainly something that was unprecedented for the manager to go through, and how he handled it and how he was so dignified and how he led a group of lads to get through what they've gone through is quite remarkable. How they've not replaced Luis Diaz and how they've not brought in Mark Gahey and that last minute failing in the transfer window. And the squad's pretty small. There's been mitigating circumstances, even on Saturday, because Mohamed Salah was missing. Then Alisson Becker was missing. That was called on the Friday. And then even 8 minutes into the match, our best goal scorer in that starting 11, Hugo Ekitike, goes off. There is loads of mitigation, Chris. There's loads. But surely now the mitigation doesn't really matter, because the only thing that matters is the results. And the results are not good enough. The data's there. The stats are there. Whatever you want to call them. The eye test is quite putrid. Is this the end for the manager?
It's certainly not a good position for him, is it? There's a few things to pick up on here, really. We're talking about, I think you said 17, 9 and 12 were the figures that you used. So the 9 and 12 makes 21, so that's 17 to 21. That's less than half games, less than 50% won. It's just simply not acceptable. Simply not acceptable whatsoever. And then your defeats are even more than your draws. Again, nowhere near good enough. Absolutely not good enough whatsoever. We spoke about Mark Gay coming in and the issue not getting there. One player doesn't change this. This is not down to one player. This is down to, in my opinion, a lack of tactics, the ability to change to players that's available, to get them. Listen, we've got a great group of individuals, but that's the problem. They're individuals. We haven't got them together as a team. There just doesn't seem to be a team there. We mentioned about a link-up between Wirtz and Ekitike, but now Wirtz has been, the last game or two, I think Wirtz has played in a different position, so that link-up's not there. So the little bit of a link that we did have, an understanding of each other, is no longer there because one of them's in a different position. I just don't get it. I struggle to understand it. It's absolutely crazy. You're talking about being 8th best. Well, we're talking 8 out of 20. Well, it's not 8th best whatsoever. It's mediocre. It's near enough middle. It's near enough in the centre. And that is just pure mediocre. And that's not good enough for Liverpool Football Club. It's completely unacceptable.
The lack of cohesion in this team, which Chris rightly points out, is quite staggering, really. The fact that there's a clear lack of organisation. And many fans have rightly give the mitigating circumstances. The mitigating circumstances that what happened in the summer has happened, and there's been a lot of change. It's a transitional season, some people are saying, because we brought so many players in. This should have happened last season. All of those factors are all got substance to a certain degree, but it's now March, Christos. It's March. And there is no organisation on the pitch. There is no cohesion. There is no relationships between the players. The profile of the players that were brought in we'll come on to a little bit later. But it's quite clear to see that this isn't a team performance when we're seeing it. It's a bunch of individuals week in, week out, and it's simply not good enough.
Yeah, I think you mentioned before not flinching when Liverpool nearly scored. Now, I think that comes down to the style of play from Liverpool. I think the lack of pressing or willingness to press, I think there's not the adequate level of fitness to press from a lot of the players. I think that's damning for a Liverpool team, especially at home. So we're unable to press the teams that are coming to Anfield. They're having an easy ride. And I think we mentioned a couple of episodes before how sometimes we just need someone to put a big tackle in. Against Brighton, James Milner put a masterclass on how a Liverpool player should perform. First 10 minutes, he puts 3 big tackles in and he sets the tone for the rest of the game for Brighton to say, this is our ground, this is what's going to happen, and we're going to dominate. And to be fair, after 10, 20 minutes, Liverpool were goose. They couldn't press anymore. And then, in my opinion, Brighton dominated that game.
The big debate is whether it's player profiles, Chris, and that, I think it's a bit of both really, but the player profiles, or is it the manager setting up the team? When I look at Alexis McAllister, who has been a class act for Liverpool over the last couple of years, it's quite apparent that he can't run, but he never could run. And when you look at him now, he seems isolated in midfield. Christos just talks about throwing a big tackle in. How can you throw a big tackle in if you're nowhere near the man in possession of the football?
Yeah. Do you know what? It's not just that. I just don't feel these players have the passion for Liverpool. It's not what we're accustomed to. It's not what we're used to. And if you haven't got the passion, you're not going to throw that big tackle in. You know, if you're more of wanting to play a fancy football type of thing, which we're not even seeing, you know, it's you need your Gerrards, your Carragers. You need big players like this. You Milner, as just mentioned there, he knew how to read the game. He knew what to do. And if you just cause that little bit of agitation in the first few minutes, it sets the tone for the game. absolutely right in what you're saying. And we haven't seen that for a long, long time. We haven't got, in my opinion, we don't have a player that does that. We just don't have it whatsoever, and we're lacking that massively. I would have liked to have thought Curtis Jones, being a local lad, he would have been stepping up to the plate a bit more. He would have been a little bit more intense, a little bit. I just don't see the enthusiasm from him, and I don't know why that is.
I think what I'm trying to get at, though, if your team is so sporadic, he sort of splits the team in half. So we'll get onto Curtis Jones and other footballers who have simply not been good enough. There's no doubt about that. You're totally right. But is the system in enabling them, not enabling these players to be able to do what they do? If McAllister is isolated in the middle of the park while the team break, how can a player who's not naturally quick put a tackle in? So it doesn't matter what you're saying about player profile. I get the whole Gerrard thing. I get the whole James Milner thing. That's totally right. But if I put you in centre mid now by yourself, Chris, and I'm saying you look after him and you can't get near him, how can you put the tackle in?
Absolutely. And it has to be down to tactics. It has to be down to the setup, which is very, very questionable. The space that you see in midfield is absolutely ridiculous. You could literally park a bus in between the players. It's an absolute joke. I've never, ever seen for a long, long time a Liverpool team that has given so much space and there's no fear factor coming to Anfield. We don't instill any fear factor no more. People come here and believe that they can play against us. They don't believe that once we've scored, they're defeated, and we've just seen that again in the Tottenham game. And that shouldn't be the case. It really shouldn't be the case. People should be fearing coming to Anfield, and we're just not seeing it.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I completely agree with what you're saying, but I think when you look at the transition between Klopp and Slot last season, we've been seeing this sort of style of play, and it's been transforming slowly throughout the last season and this season. The difference between last season and this season, for me, is primarily the profile of player that we have in the attacking third. So we'd have Luis Diaz, who's got the tenacity, he's got the timing of the press. You had Diogo Jota, you had Darwin Núñez. All these players were making massive contributions on how we defend. I think now replacing them with the likes of Ekitike, Isak, Gakpo, even though they are quality players, they are not able to compensate for the spaces and the pressing and the tenacity that we need to compensate for the way we play. So therefore, there's even more spaces and we're getting even more exposed because we haven't got the right profile of player.
So stick with you, Christos. That's what I'm sort of driving at. Has then the profile of players coming into this team, has that made players like Mohamed Salah? Now, I know people are saying that he's declining because of his age, and that's true. That's certainly true. But are footballers like Mohamed Salah, Alexis McAllister, Cody Gakpo, because he wasn't this bad, Curtis Jones, because he wasn't this bad, are those type of footballers who can't cover ground as much as Dominic Szoboszlai, for example? Are they suffering because of these players that are being replaced?
Definitely. I think they're getting exposed, and I think unrightly exposed, because you're asking them to do things that they're just not able to do, especially at aging Mo Salah, whose job isn't to press. He had a conversation with the manager last season and he told him, if you put me in these positions, I'll win the league for you. And what we've done now, we've put him back to a position where he's not comfortable and he's not doing the things that he's most best at. So therefore, if you're doing the same with Salah, Gakpo, Ekitike, Isak, we're just not setting ourselves up for failure, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, so...
I feel, though, that I struggle to accept that these players can't do it. I
know what you're saying, Chris. If they can't run fast, so you can teach someone to play good football and coach them tactically to do this or that, but you can't shout at a fat kid because you can't run fast. These players haven't been blessed with pace, so they can't run. You can't say you struggle with that if they can't run. Curtis Jones was playing right back against Brighton at a period of time on Saturday, and I seen someone just walk past them, and I think it was Matoma, and I was just like, oh my God. And then I thought to myself, but he's not a right back. I don't care what anyone says. He's not a right back. He struggles when he plays there against anyone who has a little bit of pace because he's not fast. He's just not quick. So I struggle to see that players who aren't quick are going to struggle in moments in the game where they need pace.
If you think about it, the only reason we play Kirkes this season, the only thing for me he has over Andy Robertson is the pace. Everything else, tactical understanding, style of play, decision making, I think is better from Andy Robertson, but Kirkes can compensate for that with his pace.
And that's what I'm saying. Not all the players are slow. I get some
But the players in the key areas are slow.
But I think a lot of this is down to tactics as well. I don't accept that every single player on that pitch doesn't have pace, that they can't run. I'm just not. I can't. I'm not having it. I feel like that Slot's tactically inept. He doesn't know how to deal with the players that he's got. He doesn't know where to play them correctly. He doesn't know what to tell them to do. I struggle to accept that every single player on that pitch can't run.
But not every single player. The players in the key areas where he wants them to play. So I don't think he's tactically inept because he's obviously an intelligent man, knows a lot about football. I'm more concerned, and I'll stick with you, Chris, I'm more concerned that he's stuck to the system. So at the moment, he's playing 4-2-2-2. He hasn't played that the whole season. He has played it in key matches away to Inter Milan. He's done it away to Arsenal. I think he'd done it at home to Arsenal. He'd done it against Galatasaray. You're seeing a good performance against Galatasaray. When we talk about players who can't run, we're talking about Mohamed Salah, who's on the right-hand side. Christos pointed out quite rightly before that he played in a different position. He was more central last season than this season. He seems to be more pushed out wide, or vice versa at certain points. And there's heat maps where it showed that he's clearly changed position. When Mohamed Salah was playing last season, he had Darwin Núñez running, he had Diogo Jota running, he had Luis Diaz coming into midfield and making an overload at certain times. There was tenacity from Luis Diaz. There was a lot of runners around him. And then he was what I always describe as the Harry Kane on the right, where he was making that playmaker. That's why he got the playmaker of the season in the Premier League. He hasn't got that this season. Now, we can say, I'm not a Mohamed Salah defence show, but confidence plays a big part. If you haven't got the runners around you, and I've seen loads and loads of times that the players are not passing to him in key moments as well, it just doesn't work.
No, and obviously we've seen a difference in that, but I can't help but feel that's what the players are being told to do. Because, I mean, I watch players off the ball when I'm at the game, and then I watch highlights when I come back. And what I tend to see at the moment is you'll see a player who starts to track back, and it's like they've got one of these electronic dog collars on them. They get to a point where they hit the flag, and then they have to stop because they're going to get electrocuted. They won't go any further. They get to a and that has to be. It's nothing to do with fitness. They have to be. That's what they're being told to do.
I think we're talking across purpose because I think we're saying the same thing, really, because you're blaming the system for what's going on, and I'm also blaming the system for what's going on. I'm saying that the manager isn't getting the best out of the players that seem to be doing the worst in the team. And that, to me, when there's so many of them, when you look at McAllister now, I'm going to digress for a moment. I look at Virgil van Dijk, and at the start of the season, he started fantastically. They looked like the best centre-half in Europe, never mind the Premier League. Ryan Gravenberch, fantastic. Looked absolutely fantastic. Scored that brilliant goal against Everton, which crowned off the first 5, 6, 7 games of what it looked like he was going to have this amazing season. They're both now, they've dropped off a cliff. Never mind Jim McAllister. Never mind Curtis Jones when he plays. Never mind Cody Gakpo, who's getting loads of criticism, and Mohamed Salah. All these footballers are what I would describe as is the system's not helping them. And that's why you're saying the system, and I'm saying that the manager then has got to take responsibility for this collective drop-off for all of them.
Absolutely, I'm not disagreeing with that whatsoever. But you also mentioned about the pace of players, and what I'm saying is I don't accept that all them players can't run. In terms of the system, it's not helping whatsoever. I strongly believe that Slot is tactically inept. We've seen choices where changes have had to be made or have opted to be to changes have been opted to be made. It just doesn't make sense.
Who's the best player for Liverpool on the front line this season?
Take your pick.
I think it's an easy one. It's Hugo Ekitike.
Yeah, there's only...
And there's the only one that can run.
Well, you say that, right? But let's pick up on something there then. He can run. But when it comes to getting back, he doesn't want to run. He jogs. He gets to the halfway line. He stops.
I think there's the definition of running. When I'm saying run, I'm talking about pace. You need raw pace in certain areas of the pitch. It's dead simple. So if you have Alexis McAllister who can't run, if you play him centre mid next to Ryan Gravenberch and Dominic Szoboszlai, and the spacing in the midfield, the three of them are in close proximity, it works. But if you take Dominic Szoboszlai out and then you put Florian Wirtz in and he plays further forward, next minute you've got a two-man midfield, he plays Ryan Gravenberch deeper and he puts McAllister more centrally and he's by himself. There's a difference. So now his lack of pace is exposed. That's what I'm talking about. So it's not a coincidence that Dominic Szoboszlai is the player of the season, not only because of his ability, but because the guy can run. We're talking about being able to run. There's too many players that are being put in difficult positions because that's not their game. I know you don't like Curtis Jones. I really, I can feel it when every time we meet up, Chris, and we're having a conversation. There's many people that don't. But if you're the manager of Liverpool tomorrow and you're picking a team and you have to pick Curtis Jones, you put him in a position where it's going to get the best out of him. You don't stick him in a position where someone's just going to rinse him. Okay, let's keep the conversation serious.
I put him left back in the changes is where to put him.
No, you wouldn't, because we've only got 11 players. That's what I'm saying. So it's hypothetical. You put Curtis Jones in the team where you're going to get the best out of him. You don't put him where he's going to get rinsed by a winger.
I mean, just to flip the subject there a little bit, because we've gone from we were talking about the pace of things then, but you've just mentioned about tactics. Right, and you've just set out what would work and what would be ideal for Liverpool, and I can't disagree with that whatsoever. I'm sure a lot of people, a lot of the viewers wouldn't disagree with that. My issue here, when I say Slot is tactically inept, if we can see all that and we know that'll change, why can't he? Is he just too stubborn? Is he too egoistic?
That's the question I've asked.
You know what I mean? And this is the issue. This is the issue. I'm not accepting that the players don't have any pace. Okay, they might not be as quick as what we used to, but I'm not accepting that most of them don't have pace. That's just not happening. If that is the case, then the whole transfer board needs to be sacked, because what are they playing at? You have to look at the recruitment. Why have they brought them in if that's the case?
But they were already there. So well, hang on a minute. If we're not talking about new players. We're talking about Chris,
players.
I can't accept when you're saying that ability, their tactics, whatever. I agree with everything. Some players are quicker than others, and what he's done in this team now is expose the players that are not as quick. So last season, McAllister was the same footballer, and he wasn't isolated. So he was integral in winning the league last season, because he had Luis Diaz on the left-hand side that would come in and help in midfield. The midfielders were close in proximity. There wasn't a Florian Wirtz that was breaking up the play. There was a Darwin Núñez running in behind. There was a Diogo Jota running in behind. There was a Trent Alexander-Arnold that was keeping possession of the football. On the right back now, they can't even pass out. So it's the dynamics of the football team have inhibited how certain footballers are being able to play the game. And because of that, that's where it exposes them. You can't say that a Curtis Jones is as fast as Hugo Ekitike or Dominic Szoboszlai. Some players are naturally slower. It doesn't mean that they shouldn't be at the football club.
And okay, so if the pace wasn't an issue before, that just leads back to the fact that Slot's tactically inept.
That's what I've said the whole time. You know, so I said we're saying the same thing.
I don't disagree with that.
But I can't agree that the fact that there's pace is a thing. It really is a thing. Harry Kane isn't fast, Christos, but he's one of the best strikers in European football. He's absolutely magnificent. Got his 50th Champions League goal last week. But if he was playing in a system where it relied only upon pace, where he was playing a counter-attacking football, maybe under Gerard Houllier, and he was meant to be Michael Owen, you probably don't even think you were watching football at that point. I've just realised how old I am. But if that was the point, then Harry Kane, it wouldn't really work, would it?
Yeah, no. I think we're talking here about tactics and we're talking about formation. I think when we say he's stubborn, I do believe he's stubborn to an extent, But when we talk about formation, if you look at the formation Liverpool's utilised over the season, it's changed multiple times. The tactics, however, are very, very the same. So the way we defend, the gaps in the middle, the ways our left backs are utilised, these are the things that have not been addressed. Now, I think he even referenced it in one of his interviews that he tries to change the system or the formation, but whenever he tries to change the formation, some of the players get injured, some of the players are unavailable, so therefore he's tweaking and changing all the time. However, he's still not found a way to play for Liverpool, but at the same time, with the squad he's got available, I think that is what the problem is. I think it's unacceptable that he hasn't found a way to be successful in a Liverpool team and a Liverpool squad where, let's face it, we spend loads and loads of money in the summer. So my argument is another manager would be able to get a better result. I'm not saying he'd be challenging for the league, but being 5th and 6th consistently is just unacceptable for me.
But the fitness, what I want to talk about the fitness now, because regardless of what anyone's opinion is, footballers can't finish games, and that's a concern for me. So right at the beginning of the season, it was quite apparent. He come out, when I say he, is Arne Slot, he come out and he said Kerkers is not used to playing 3 games a week. And I get it to a certain point, but I don't know why it needed to be public. Then he said this about all the new signings as the season's gone on, and now it's March, and the excuses were very apparent pre-match before Brighton. Not after the fact. It was after the fact as well, but also pre-match. It was very defeatist, and that's what I didn't like. It was the fact that they were setting us up for a bit of a fall here, and I just don't understand why these footballers cannot play 3 games a week. This is a football club that have played 3 games a week at the highest level for the past 10 years. Even when we talk about the 2015-16 season before, when Brendan Rodgers was sacked and Jurgen Klopp came in, we got to the League Cup final and we got to the Europa League final. This football club's used to playing a lot of games. I understand maybe one individual coming in, and I know that there was a couple of individuals, and some people, Christos, point towards that the lack of pre-season or the disrupted pre-season is the major factor in that, and I just don't buy into it. And the reason why I don't buy into it is because the tragedy happened, and I really understand that. And I can have a big conversation. We can make a whole podcast about bereavement and how it affects people. I understand, and I've got every sympathy for that. But it's March now, and I just don't understand how we can get from this point, from that point to this point, and someone's still telling me that the team's not fit enough, and substitutions are like they don't seem reactive until it's. Listen, we can have a big thing about substitutions in a minute. There's some mad substitutions, but a lot of them seem preemptive. Like it's agreed on 62 minutes. These 3 are coming on because these 3 need to come off. I'm struggling to buy into that.
Yeah, I don't think Liverpool has shown energy throughout the season, and I think a big part of that is I think Arne Slot, compared to Jurgen Klopp, focuses on attractive football in terms of he wants nice and intricate passes, he wants controlled football, and I think that focus on control has gone away from what Liverpool were before. So physicality, not stopping for 90 minutes. You had players under Jurgen Klopp playing 3 games a week, no problem. Now we're seeing that players are struggling to get through 1 game, never mind 3. And I think that also comes down to the fact that our squad's not being utilised from the start of the season, and then we're throwing players in when people are getting injured. So players are not playing for 5-6 games, and then you ask them to do 2 or 3 on the bounce. No wonder they haven't got the fitness levels.
Who do you think's not being utilised when just the pressure on them?
Just for example, Curtis Jones was taken out for a little bit, then he brought him back in, or let's say Mamardashvili was taken out for a long time. I thought he could have been utilised earlier. Now we've got a problem where we've got Mamardashvili playing for Liverpool, and he couldn't handle it, especially against Brighton. He made the mistake.
Well, maybe the opposite argument, maybe if Mamardashvili, so if Mamardashvili maybe would have played the FA Cup game, and then Alisson wouldn't have had such a load then in the Premier League, and he wouldn't have broken down. Possibly maybe Rio and Gamboa as well.
Yeah, definitely.
That brings me on to the formation here, Chris, and that's why I'm coming to you, is because Liverpool signed Hugo Ekitike in the summer and they signed Alexander Isak. And that left many fans and many non-fans, just football observers, wondering what the plan was, because they are both similar. They both press similar. They are both number 9s. They like to play centrally. Hugo Ekitike can certainly play wide left. I would be in favour of that. We didn't really see that happen. But then it makes me think about this 4-2-2-2 system, which is a system that Arne Slot deployed at Feyenoord when they won the league. And it makes me think, is this where Liverpool are gravitating to? Because he likes to play the double pivot. It looks like, I've mentioned before, that he breaks the team in half at moments where he likes to stop the transition. That double pivot would do that. Then it would be the 2 number 10s and then 2 centre forwards potentially. And when you think about Alexander Isak and Hugo Ekitike, yeah, that sounds good, doesn't it? Up front, I mean, I think back to Sturridge and Suarez and I think how fantastic that was. But I don't know any top team that would play a forward 2 now rather than a front 3. When you think about all the great teams in Europe, your Barcelonas, your Bayern Munichs, your Real Madrids, your Manchester City, all these teams are playing a front 3. Liverpool, historically, over the last so many years, have played a front 3. I don't really like where it's gravitating to. But not only that, Chris, is that even if it works, because, you know, on paper, this might work and it's great, but even if it starts to work actually on the football pitch, the one big thing which is so apparent, and you can see it when you're watching it, and again, I'll go back to the eye test, there's no width. And the width has got to be provided by the fullbacks, which then begs the question why the left back doesn't really cross the halfway line very much. And even if all this works, Chris, and this is the biggest thing for me, because I don't like watching it. And the reason why I don't like watching it is I want to see a Sadio Mane. I want to see a Luis Diaz. I want to see a Mohamed Salah. I want to see top-class footballers, as well as then your Andy Robertsons and your Trent Alexander-Arnolds behind them. And I love the fact that Liverpool had varied play and you didn't really know, like if you stopped one part of the front 3, there was another part. If you stopped Trent Alexander-Arnold that day, Andy Robertson was swinging it in. I want to see real top-class footballers, and I don't see how the system does that. Everything seems to be centrally, and I'm not sure it's very exciting to watch.
No, there's nothing exciting about it, but the thing is also, nothing's working. You talk about this 4-2-2-2 and to try and stop the transition. It's not stopping anything. It's literally not stopping anything.
I'm asking you the question, if it did, is this... So what people will come back to us...
I don't want to see it anyway.
So that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, I don't want to see it anyway. I mean, there's no with what if it did, because it isn't. But we don't want to see that. You know what I mean? It's okay if you want to go out with that tactic on a certain game, because you feel that, you know, it might be the best option based on statistics that they're seeing against the opponent. You can accept that for a game or two.
Inter Milan away, for example.
Yes, you want to go to City away or whatever, and you think that's going to work. I can totally understand that. You're obviously in for a little bit of criticism if it doesn't work, but it is what it is. But week in, week out, and then you're deploying that kind of tactic at Anfield, which is meant to be a fortress to come to. People should be coming here worrying. They're not worrying about anything. They're coming here with the opinion that they can come here to win. They're coming with a lot of ambition. They're coming with a lot of belief. And that should never be happening. Never. I just don't... I mean, we see late on in games where Slot is changing. When the transition's taking place, we're changing from a 4-2-2-2 to 2 rows of 5. Right? This 2 rows of 5... The front or the attacking row of 5 or the midfield row of 5, whatever position it wants to be in, they're not even recognisable anyway. They're all over the show.
At first, I thought it was admirable putting that many forwards on because, you know, go for the game. But
it is if you're going to defend from the front. But what's the point in putting them on to just stand there and let them go past you?
But not only that, you need someone to pass the ball to them. If there's no one there,
Liverpool have played the best football over the last number of years that I can think of, defending from the front. It's exciting. It worked. We scored goals. We won things. Why? Why have we changed something that wasn't broken? I understand he wants. Sorry, I understand he wants to come in with his own ideas, and you absolutely want to tweak things. You want to make things a little bit of an own identity, but that is just ridiculous opposite ends of the scale. And this is where I can't help but feel that Slot, because he's had a little bit of success where he was, and obviously now he's had the success with Liverpool last season. The first half of that season, we played the way we were accustomed to with Klopp. My concerns come towards the second half of that season, or the last third of that season, when we started to see things change and results change dramatically. That was a major, major red flag to me, and it hasn't got any better.
And since that point, Christos, it's been 38, I'll repeat, 38 games, well 39 now, and we've won, was it 17 and lost 12 and drew 9, I think that's what it was. Which would put you in 6th place. That's with an extra game as well. So we actually put the 39th game there, which that was Brighton. So when we talk about did the 39th game ever happen, it's happened now. And is that 12 losses? That's 13 losses then, isn't it? 13 losses in 39 games. Really messed that one up, haven't I? But to argue Chris's point there, that's what I'm trying to get at, is that Chris is right. Since the League Cup final last season, you're seeing a massive change. Away to PSG, we got absolutely run off the pitch. We were a bit unfortunate on the night at Anfield. Then we played the League Cup final. The League Cup final, it's quite apparent, the Newcastle midfield dominated our midfield. From that point onwards, Liverpool did win some games, and then there's some people would say, well, we took our foot off the gas because we won the league title. I get all that, but when you put it all into context now, you look back and you go, no, that was the moment.
Yeah, I think at that moment, you could see a massive shift in the way Liverpool was setting up and the way they were approaching games. And I think just drawing back to what Chris was saying before about the pressing players and how Liverpool press. When you think back to Jurgen Klopp, one of the things he'd say when he's speaking about his philosophy is the higher you win the ball in a football match, the easier it is to score a goal. Now, we're not winning the ball at the highest points of the pitch. Therefore, it's harder. There's more passes involved or required to get to that point where you have a shot on target. If you look at the Brighton game, we barely had a shot on target. So we're not creating chances. We're not exciting. As he said, the press is not on. So the crowd's not getting up for the game. And that feeds onto the players. Now, I think he's to blame for taking that energy out of the team, but also the profile of players and the way the squad's been utilised.
The reason why I asked Chris before is this what you want to see anyway? So even if it works, is this what you want to see? Because, listen, if he was to turn us into a Pep Guardiola Manchester City, I think few would argue. But my biggest concern is that we know who the ownership is. And although we spent all that money last season, they're not going to continue to keep plugging money into this. So have we got the firepower? And when I say firepower, I mean the transfer budgets and the transfer strategies to actually change the whole identity of what we're trying to do. That's the first question. And the second question is that clear? It's quite clear to see it's not with hindsight. We've got to remember we're not paid to go and sign the players. We're not paid to scout the players. The one thing that Liverpool have done historically over the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years is make sure that the profile of player was the correct one coming in. What were you thinking?
Yeah, I think when you talk about Jurgen Klopp and Pep Guardiola, I wouldn't want to see Pep Guardiola football. So when I think back when Liverpool were at their best, everyone in Europe would prefer to watch a Jurgen Klopp team apart from a Pep Guardiola team. Even when they were winning league titles on the bounce, people would say that they're boring. It's not entertaining. It was just death by 1,000 passes, and I don't think that would excite a Liverpool crowd. I don't think that would work for a Liverpool crowd. And look how much money City had to spend to make that happen. It was literally buying a 60 million fullback every other term. So it's not realistic. We don't act like that. I don't think the owners are willing to put that sort of investment in. So therefore, the idea that Slot's trying to create or use within our club, I can't see it working ever.
Last season, Chris, it was 66 points that got 5th place. Liverpool are currently on 49 with 7 games to go. They're on course to get another 11 points, I think I've worked out, which would put them on 60 points, which would be 5 points short. We know Chelsea are in a bit of free fall with the new manager, Liam Rossini, but there's big question marks still whether Liverpool can actually still qualify for this Champions League position. Do you think it's possible?
No.
No.
And do you know what's even more embarrassing about this? Everton have started to win at home now, and they've
I'm trying to not bring that up, Chris.
slowly creeping up behind us. And if we're not careful, mate, they're the ones that's going to overtake us and get this Champions League spot. And that is going to be solely embarrassing from going from the champions of England to then going a team who are massive rivals in Merseyside, who were on...
Oh, they'll never stop talking about it as well.
Constantly dodging relegation to possibly leapfrogging us into Champions League.
Be the worst Premier League title.
Frightening,
defense.
absolutely frightening. And do you know what? Just to touch on this, right? I watched the Brighton game, obviously, but my daughter had a birthday party to go to. And if I couldn't have made to watch that game, I probably would have had more entertainment watching a bunch of 3-year-olds running around screaming than watching that game.
We were hoping to get an invite next time, so wasn't we, Chris?
You know, I just...
I think that's hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? That's how much it's problematic watching Liverpool at the moment. The next question is that now it's international break, Christos. There seems to be a period of time that if you're going to go again and you're going to say to yourself, like, I genuinely can't fathom where a universe where Arne Slot's the manager of Liverpool Football Club on July 1st. And the reason being is because his contract's run up in 12 months from the summer. That doesn't work. You don't go into a new season with 12 months left on your contract, or less than 12 months, should I say. There seems to be no appetite to give him a new contract. There was rumours in the autumn. If they were going to give him a new contract, the talk would be now. Then people would say, well, why would you give him it when the team's playing so poorly? And they're right. But if Jurgen Klopp was going through the troubles he was now, and Pep Guardiola was going through the troubles he was at Manchester City, the board would believe in them. They would give him the new contract. There's no doubt about that. So they have to now back him, or they need to part ways in the summer. Now, I think that's going to happen. And I've been a strong believer that that's what's going to happen. But now, like I just said, it's the international break. They've got time to sit on it. They've got time to reflect. They've got time to maybe bring an interim into the football club. The 7 league games to go. As I mentioned before, Chelsea are certainly not playing the best football, not getting the best results. They're not nailed on to go and get the Champions League position. Liverpool still have agency in this. And if they brought in a new manager, they are in the FA Cup quarterfinals and they are in the Champions League quarterfinals. Do you think that's the best port to call, or do you think it just simply won't happen?
So I think if Arne Slot was going to get sacked, I think it would have happened already. Now, I think the board are going to stick with him until the end of the season, regardless of what happens. I think they don't have their preferred man lined up. And I think if they did, I think now would be the ideal time to make that move. A lot of people talking about maybe Gerrard as an interim or Xabi Alonso. Well, we don't know if the board actually wants Gerrard or Xabi Alonso. So I don't think that's their man. Think about when they signed Arne Slot. It was something that no one expected. No one really expected Arne Slot to be the next Liverpool manager. So I think they're very creative in their appointments. They're very data-driven. And I don't think it'll be the obvious option that every Liverpool fan wants to see. And at the same time, as I've just said, I don't think that man is available. So I think we're just going to have to bear with Arne Slot. I think he will probably go in the summer when we have more time to find our man. Or maybe the man they wants to stay to the end of the season at his current club. It might be an active manager. So, yeah, I think it would have happened already, especially after the Brighton game. I think that was the time to make that happen. I don't see the reason of giving them an extra week in between games. I think if they were going to do it now, give them a couple of weeks to get settled.
All of that's pretty sensible, Chris. I think the data-driven model, they've been commended on it over the last few years, and it's certainly what you want our football club to be, is not to be reacting to 3 idiots like us on a podcast. However, sometimes you can be a little bit too egotistical in your data-driven model. There was a 60-page dossier on Arne Slot before he became the manager, and in that would have been where things go wrong, and he would still be the perfect man for when things go wrong. But all the reasons outlined in this podcast so far is that the data reads that the manager's not getting the best out of these players. We are not organised at all. We're so soft to play against. We concede goals with such ease. You said before that no one fears Anfield. No one even sees beating Liverpool as special now because it's become routine. With all that in mind, and the fact that if we're all in agreement that Arne Slot wouldn't be the manager in July anyway, do you think that actually maybe they should change their mind? Because if you said before that they're not going to qualify for the Champions League. If that's the case, will they revisit this and think, well, do you know what? We need Champions League money for the new manager. Christos said before Xabi Alonso might not be the man, and that certainly might be the case. But if he was the man, would he come in? Should he come in? And will FSG do anything in this international break?
First of all, forget the 1st of July. It needs to be the 1st of April. It should have been the 1st of January. For me, football's become a business. I've said this quite a few times, and I always, unfortunately now, I bring into my thought process the business strategies of things as well, because that's what it's become. And it has a major impact on what happens on players, managers, and what happens on the pitch, unfortunately. I can't help but feel that there is a business agreement behind all this. And I can't help but feel that they've said to Slot, listen, we'll stick with you to the end of the season, but they've negotiated somewhere along the line that the compensation package to go this summer, rather than the end of contract, is going to save them a bit of money rather than getting a shut of them now and having to pay a full compensation package. If that is the case, it's extremely sad that it's come to that. There's an element of neglect from, as the Americans like to call themselves, custodians. And it's not good enough. It really isn't good enough. They need to start looking at this now, realising it's not acceptable, because the extra bit of money that they may spend now in terms of compensation on Slot, they may get that back in huge amounts with the qualification of Champions League if we bring a new manager in and give him a half a bit of an opportunity to do something here, rather than waiting, and it's going to cost them a hell of a lot more money to not qualify for Champions League. They need to step in. They need to recognise the problem. It's starting to get a little bit toxic with some players, with some fans out there now. So they have a duty of care. There's a duty of care from the ownership here now. They need to come in. They need to do something. It needs to be now.
It's a huge risk leaving this now, because all the reasons Chris has outlined are all correct. We've got 7 games, Premier League games. Well, we'll leave the FA Cup for a moment. We'll leave the Champions League. We've got the next Premier League game is it Everton? No, it's Fulham. Fulham home, Everton away, Crystal Palace home, Man United away, Chelsea home, Aston Villa away, Brentford home. None of them on paper are easy. Even the ones that you think are a bit easier, maybe like Fulham home and Crystal Palace, are all problematic. There is no room for error now for this football team. I think Liverpool need to win 5 and draw 2 to get what they need. That means no more defeats and no more not winning football games, really. If you're going to draw, you want to draw towards the end of the season, because you've got to go to Old Trafford, you've got to go to Villa Park in the evening, I think, as well. It's very high risk not to change the manager. If you don't make a decision now, that is making a decision, isn't it?
Yeah, but I just think they're not going to make the decision. That's just my personal opinion. I think if they were going to make that decision, they would have made it already. And I think you're both correct in saying how that is going to have a massive effect on the end of the season. But at the same time, Arne Slot might actually be able to get Champions League football. A couple of episodes before, you asked me if I still think Liverpool will get Champions League football, and I said yes. And I still think that's possible. Not because how good Liverpool is, but how bad the teams around us are. I don't think anyone around us really wants Champions League football. And I think I underestimated how bad they were, because since then, I think every single one of them have dropped some sort of points. So if we can keep at least some sort of consistency which the past says we can't. But I believe that we can be just a little bit better than the rest, especially the likes of Chelsea, Everton, even Aston Villa dropping off. I think get a few results to get the confidence, and I think other teams will start feeling the pressure.
Well, that's why we bring him on, because he's more cheerful than me and Chris. So that's the good thing. There is still hope. There is a possibility that we can qualify for the Champions League. We of course hope there is, because that'll put us back years and years and years. I just don't see a world where this current Liverpool side, how they're tactically set up, win 5 or 6 games out of the 7 when they've not done that in the entirety of the season. I'm struggling, okay? But we touched upon player profiles. We're going to be back. Our whole show will be dedicated about all the new signings and what those player profiles are, what our opinions are. Let us know in the comments about what your thoughts and feelings are about Arne Slot. If you've got any questions about player profiles, or you want to add to the show with any other questions, then please do so. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and make sure you catch us on Patreon as well. It's been emotional, hasn't it? Up the Reds.